Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So glad to have you here like always. In today's episode, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a home style hand feeding formula for your baby birds. And I've done a variety of different videos of baby birds in the past, and the majority of the times I'm showing you guys how to hand feed them using some commercial style hand feeding formulas that you can buy online or you can buy at local pet shops. But one of the biggest problems that we've learned over this past 2 years with this pandemic is that unfortunately things can sometimes be in short supply. They may be hard to find at times, they may take longer than expected to get delivered, or they may not be in stock at your local pet stores. So it is very important to learn how to make these home style hand feeding formulas in case of an emergency. That way you're able to feed these birds and keep them alive. Now, it's not just because of short supplies or having a hard time finding some of these formulas, but let's face it, people from around the world have been asking me and telling me that unfortunately, they just don't have that type of hand feeding formula in their country. Now, personally, from experience, I know what this feels like because I am from Cuba. That's where I was born, and I know firsthand how hard it can be to find some of these things. So if you're in a country where unfortunately you just can't find these commercial style hand feeding formulas because they just don't sell them, this is going to be a perfect recipe for you to make at home in order to feed your baby birds and keep them alive. Alright guys, now I want you to meet a very special little bird. His name is Pepper. Now Pepper is a society finch and he is going to be our model for today. He's going to show us how a little bird should accept food that you feed him. So let's get started with this on how to make this home style hand feeding formula. Here in front of me you can see some of the things that you're going to need in order to make this happen. First thing that we have here on the far right is some oatmeal. Now I grind it up into very small pieces and I'm going to use this for the mix. If you don't have oatmeal, you can also use cornmeal. The next thing that you see on the table is a small piece of egg. So what you want to do is you want to boil an egg, and you're going to use this egg in order to create your home style hand feeding formula. And the last thing that we have on the far left is going to be the container where we're going to mash all of this up to create a paste that we're later going to feed the baby bird. Now there isn't really an exact measurement to how much of each one of these things you want to add. It all kind of depends on how many baby birds you have to feed. So just kind of play it by sight and make your paste. Once you get everything into your container and you mash it up, you want to start adding a bit of water. This water is what's going to give it the correct consistency. You want this to have a soup style consistency. You don't want it to be too thin that it's going to be runny, but at the same time, you don't want it to be too thick where it's going to get impacted inside of the chick's crop. Remember that baby birds do not drink water and they get all of their water from the moisture or the water that you incorporate into their hand feeding formula. So you don't want this to be too thick, otherwise it could get impacted inside of their crop. They won't be able to process it and this will eventually kill the baby bird. Once you get these into the right consistency, you want to place it into a small container so you can store it away in the fridge once you're done feeding the baby bird. You can keep this in the fridge for only one day. I wouldn't recommend using this the following day, but if you make this formula very early in the morning, you can use it throughout the day. Just make sure that as you pull it out of the fridge, you rewarm it back up again so that the baby bird can eat it, and add water accordingly, because whether you're adding oatmeal or cornmeal, this is going to tend to get hard over time, so you will eventually have to re-add a little bit of water to soften up the formula before you feed it to the baby bird again. But once you get it into this correct consistency, then we're ready to go and we can start feeding our baby bird. Now, by the time that I got this home style hand feeding formula finished and I went to go pull out Pepper from the nest, I noticed that he was completely full. The parents had stuffed him. So this is a great example and the perfect time to show you guys what it looks like when the baby bird is completely full. As you can see, once they're full, no matter how much you try to feed them, they're just not going to open their mouth. And this is a good thing. I've seen so many posts and I've had so many comments of people telling me, my baby bird isn't really opening its beak, it's not wanting to eat, or how do I know when to stop feeding it? Well, just look at them, they will let you know. Trust me, if it's not opening its mouth, it's because it's pretty much full. They are very quick to open their mouth when they're hungry, as you're going to be able to see later on in this video. So let's put him back in the nest, give him some time to digest some of that food that he has in the crop, and we're going to retry this again in about an hour. All right, so let's give this another try. Pepper is back and he has a completely different outlook on life now. He is ready to eat and he is hungry. As you can see, 1 hour has given him enough time for that crop to go down. And usually this is about the time when the parents would be eating and getting ready to start feed him again. So he is ready to go and he is more willing to accept this food. As you can see, the consistency of this home style hand feeding formula is not too thick and it's not too watery. You want to be careful with these two, as I mentioned before. If it's too thick, the baby bird's not going to be able to properly eat the food correctly, and even if they do eat it, it could get impacted in their crop. And if it's too watery, it can also cause a problem because as the baby bird is swallowing that egg food, it could go down the wrong way, and if they aspirate some of that water, you could have troubles later on where the bird ends up dying. Now, as far as how to feed them, I'm not going to focus on the exact methods of hand feeding. I've done a video of this in the past showing you a variety of different methods to hand feed, and that's going to be linked in the description below. But for this home style hand feeding formula, the best way to feed it is going to be with a small spoon or toothpick or something very similar to the thing that I'm using here, which is a small tool that we use to band the birds. And this is going to be the best and easiest method, and it's also one of the safest methods to use when it comes time to hand feeding baby birds. It does take longer than using a syringe, but unfortunately, when you make a home style hand feeding formula, it is very difficult to use a syringe because this feeding formula is kind of clumpy. It's not very loose and it can get stuck within the syringe, and if you press on that plunger a bit too hard, could shoot out and cause some damage to the baby bird. So go slow, be patient, and as you've seen in the video, kind of tease the baby bird's beak by touching it or tapping it slightly, so this will encourage it to open up and start eating. Alright guys, well this is going to be the end of another video. I really hope that this tutorial on how to make this home style hand feeding formula has been useful for you guys. Whether it's because the one that you'd like to order online is in short supply, out of stock, or it's going to take too long for it to arrive, or whether it's because you're in a different country where commercial style hand feeding formulas just don't exist, this is the perfect all-around home style hand feeding formula to have ready at home in order for emergencies like this. So I really hope that you guys have enjoyed it. If you did, remember to hit the like button, consider subscribing if you haven't done so already, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. We will see each other in the next video.